Good afternoon. It's not only a beautiful sunny afternoon, but there's always a bit of devil in the detail. But I think probably all of us have listened to the lunchtime Prime Minister's announcements, which are all very positive. There will be issues which you can pick up in questions, and we will obviously deal with the small detail. But today is about catching up. So if I can have the next slide, please. So I'm going to carry on in a minute about that national decisions that were just made. Some insights into the research and some work that we're doing on the government and the messaging we're looking at reopening, which we've just been finalising with a video company. And then I'm going to hand over to Alistair Handyside from the Professional Association of Self-Caterers, and then some questions and answers. So without further ado, the first thing I want to sort of move on to is the reopening message. The Prime Minister made it clear today that two things really: the social distancing guidelines will change from 2 meters to 1 meter. It will be guidelines, not legislation, but that still is a huge responsibility on everybody to stick to them. But the fact that actually the vast majority can now open up on the basis of once they've gone through the right procedures. And one of the things we will be saying is with the media today is it's absolutely great news that we're in a position, because of everybody playing their part to keep the virus under control, that we can start opening up accommodation. But accommodation should open once it's gone through the right procedures, and that customers should be checking what the procedures are, because we want people who've done their work and their homework and got their practices in place to be benefiting from this, having customers, staying safe and making lots of money. But obviously guidance will come through hopefully later today, and then we can pick through that another time. So what I want to move on quickly, because there might be a lot of questions and answers today, is on the consumer research. So next slide, please. I know some of you would have been on here before and heard me go on, and last week we did drop this research. This is research we've commissioned across the Southwest about actually what consumers are thinking with a company called BDRC. So next slide, please, Mike. So what are the tourism intentions? And this is, we changed the survey. This bit is the standard stuff about intentions. Then we'll move on to some of their reactions to what might be a changed way of operating when you're on holiday. So the first intention slide, please change the next slide. Is average lead time continue to get inched downwards, and I imagine they might inch downwards a lot more. This does talk about months, but what you've got to understand in there that 28% of people are thinking that they'll be going on holiday within 3 months, and it's about 7% within a month. Now that might well have changed partly on today's announcements and partly because of the glorious sunshine. And if you're in the southeast and south of England later this week on 30 degrees, I'm sure a lot of people will be thinking of being beside the coast and enjoying a wonderful part of the world. So that I think might actually well improve quite quickly, although obviously we do have to manage numbers. On to the next slide, please, Mike. So this proportion looks quite small in terms of it, but there's quite a shift really between that 12% and the last penultimate to the right column, and now 18%, which is very likely to have a holiday. And bearing in mind that the Southwest in Cornwall in particular is a very popular holiday destination, you know, that is quite strong indication really, reasons to be positive, not too negative. Next slide, please, Mike. And this one about spending time with family outside my household, which of course the government and the Prime Minister announced today as a distinct way of operating. So that's strong. Time in nature, wellness and well-being, these are all strong indicators for basically a holiday in Cornwall. So the sort of offer we have in the summer is very much where the sentiment of the consumer is. Next slide, please. And again, just reinforces it. These slides will be available after the webinar, and you'll be able to look on our website and see them. But the big slide here is that major issues. People want to go to the coast, the seaside, the countryside, rural destinations, not more popular areas, exactly what the Cornwall and the Southwest is about. So again, very strong associations with us. So again, more reasons to be optimistic. Next slide, please. And just building on this whole thing that people engage with lots of people are likely to have significantly lower. when you've been told to stay away from people for 3 months, it's hardly surprising that's what you'll be leaning towards on holiday. And again, that's what leans to our area because we've got plenty of outdoor spaces, plenty of activities, and plenty of places where you can avoid the crowds. So again, positive stuff. And the next slide. Um, so like it says here, I mean, basically we've got good hotels, we've got private self-catering, all of those are set to attract. So we are in a very strong position again on accommodation for the messages about COVID safe. And the next slide. And again, gardens, surprise, surprise. I mean, all of this reinforces that what the visitor's looking for, and it will come out in the later slides, is they want to know that they can keep their distance from people and that actually things can be easily cleaned and very nice and sanitized outside. So outdoors, gardens, coast walking, all the stuff that we can provide in spades. So again, very strong for us. Next slide. So this one is when we started drilling down into what people's attitudes would be about certain things changing in the way you normally go on about your holiday. And one of the things we'll be launching and have launched already is the think, plan and book, which is actually trying to get people to realize to do things. They're going to have to think a bit more, have a bit of fun in the research because research holiday can be fun, and booking ahead. So the next slide, please. And we know that many tourism venues, all their leading attractions in Cornwall, will be doing advanced ticketing and payment. And you'll see the majority of people still visit venues with advanced booking. So it's not a deterrent. Again, hopefully that can be on your website. It's a very positive message that you're managing visitor numbers. So although there are people would rather not pay up front, you know, I think there is actually quite strong evidence that you shouldn't be short of customers if you are doing pre-booked tickets for attractions and venues. Next slide, Mike. Now this is one following today's announcements that we've probably got to realise that we might be pushing the message to the customers. And you'll see there that one thing we're looking for is, this is what we've asked the customers, what would they be looking for in some form of accreditation or anything. And you'll see that it does vary, but not hugely vary. So you're talking about, you know, 10 to mid-teens for general assurance on their website. So just saying it's okay, we've done everything. That's only got to satisfy about 1 in 10. A detailed statement on the website goes quite strong. A national kite mark, and I think that is probably quite low because there's been no talk of one and no marketing of one. That could change if the Visit Britain and the AA kite marks get plenty of PR and plenty of profile and people look with them. But accreditation, and we have looked at that. We've had QIT on a couple of weeks ago, and I think that depends on the type of accommodation. Again, you'll see it's roughly the same all over. I think it would depend on the type of market you've got. Have you got more senior, even older than me, senior aged customers? Are you in a big residential area where that would work? But you know, you're talking about 1 in 4, 1 in 3 people said I can work this out for myself. But bearing in mind you want as many customers as you're able to cope safely with, it does show that people are looking for reassurance. Next slide. And this is what people are essential, and that was the good news today about restaurants and pubs being able to be open. Many of our members have sort of told me that it's no good, I don't want to come to your cottages, there's nowhere to go for a drink or nowhere to eat. Admittedly, we will be pushing the reservations. So the fact that we can open up restaurants and cafes and pubs at the same time as accommodation is actually very key to provide the full experience, because you'll see on the left-hand side that restaurants and cafes and pubs, you know, are an essential part. Likewise, parks, beaches, and other places. So it gives you a feel that they do want as much as a full experience as they would normally expect to have, and not a limited experience. On to the next slide, please, Mike. And this is good news if you run fish and chips, because it's the first time when people are actually more likely to be doing it. I think people will understand that they're going to have more takeaways, do more cooking themselves. But we have actually asked the questions, if there are restrictions in place, how would it impact on you? And there is a bit of impact, but not huge. So the The blue column would be with the restrictions and what you not usually do. So you'll see that people will reduce a bit, but not hugely, because obviously eating out, dining is all part of the experience. On to the next slide. Now this slide is about, we did ask, because I know lots of you would have literature, we have literature visiting Cornwall. So we did ask about leaflets, and you'll see here that the overall message is that the publicly available ones, which might have been touched somewhere else, have got the biggest drop, but people still are looking for forms of material. So if you're accommodation provider, maybe you passing them that information or giving them details of the website, or having details on your website linking to Visit Cornwall and other sites is actually quite important in helping your visitors. But again, it's you know, and you can see here that the people are still quite strong on tourist information centres because they also want advice. So I think when we talk about information, we should also consider about the advice side. So obviously a drop in those issues. On to the next slide. Now this is worrying, and it's going to be one of the challenges that we will all face, and certainly I'll face in the next few days, is irate of Cornwall saying no visitors should be allowed into Cornwall. And you'll see here that the Southwest is more nervous. I don't think it's because we're different to anybody else in the country. It's because we have been fortunate of having lower incidences of COVID. But equally, I can tell you, one of the highest incidents of COVID is up in the Northwest and Cumbria, and their populations are equally nervous. So we don't need to think that somehow we're odd and a bit paranoid. I think our message will be is if everybody sticks to the guidelines and the rules, preferably 2 metre distancing, 1 metre if you have to, hand washing, exactly what the Prime Minister said, and people can be safe, those who live here as well as those who visit. It's up to all of us to keep each other safe, but we will no doubt have some mischief on that, as we did last week with the media. Again, moving on to the next slide. We also asked, and this is one that we asked on purpose, now you will hear me using this one with the media, is, you know, what would happen if you went to a hot spot, a beach, a town, and it got busy? Well, first of all, you can see that 50% of people would just turn away. 33% would slowly and carefully, but probably also turn away. And you're down to 11% acting and just carrying on. Now, the normal population in Cornwall is 550,000. We'll probably have around about 130, 140,000 in the height of August. That means you're only talking about 14,000 people being naughty. So visitors have got this on board. Visitors are, you know, from this research, visitors, the vast majority, 90%, or 80 something other percent, would be prepared to be sensible and responsible. And that's the message we will put forward. And now coming on to the last couple of slides, if you can pass on to the next slide, please. What measures do you want in place? And thank God we had a good gin industry down in the southwest in Cornwall, because certainly hand sanitizers, but also there's nothing wrong with washing your hands. So providing hand washing is equally as good as sanitizers. Sanitizers are just for where you can't wash your hands. Enhanced cleaning regime, free cancellation, transferable bookings. But you'll see that once you get past there, things like restricting guests having to wear masks, closure of communal areas, basically they want to make sure that we can stay apart, keep hygiene up, but we don't want to ruin the holiday by passing things off. So I think it's more about hygiene and social distancing, which comes on to the last slide as well. This is about what the public are expecting for us to do to protect them. And again, you'll see that it is about cleaning, it's checking the health of your staff, hand sanitizers, the numbers being controlled, enforced social distancing and visitor number management in public areas. And some of that is helped by the town centres and the bids doing traffic restrictions, and the town councils and parish councils. But you'll see again that it's more at this end of social distancing and hygiene, which is the messages. And on to the last slide on the research, and I've done a bit more, is you'll see here is that people are looking to 53% looking to probably book more closely to travel time. I think people will keep their options open. I think we might find that due to that glorious weather in April and May, people are probably going to keep an eye on the weather. But it does mean that we might find surges of late booking coming through in the summer, probably determinant on the weather and other news items, but mainly the weather. So that's the research, and I think the main thing on the research I want to say is there's lots of reasons to be positive, lots of reasons to be there, but I think the clear message is people want us to be responsible, have our systems in place, be COVID secure, and demonstrate to the visitors we're COVID secure, and for us to give those customers clear messages that there are things they have to do as well. But a lot more reasons to be positive, especially on this afternoon. On to the next slide, which I won't take too long on. Just to let you know, and there's probably some extra notes I've got here from a conversation with our task group lunchtime. You know, there's lots of things that will come up. There's some clarity now needed on swimming pools in privately managed properties, because there's a bit of clarity there. There's messaging about everybody should be COVID safe, be you a member of Visit Cornwall or distributing by Airbnb, and all these rules and regulations and risk assessment applies to everybody. And we need to obviously find out more about the national kite mark. Some of these I'm glad to say are now going to drop off. First one is we're waiting for the test case. Alistair's been involved in a group action on that. Finished holiday lettings, we want to get them, particularly those who receive no other support, as the highest priority for the next element of discretionary funding. Flexible furloughing, we're really worried about the winter, job losses and support through, and that's our next challenge. Domestic marketing, I think we're all going to be discussing with the government on redirecting Visit Britain's budget for the domestic market, and we need a good autumn as well as some business in the deepest part of winters to help us out of this. Some of the businesses rate of wise over 51 again. If they haven't received any of the support and are in need of it, they should be open for discretionary grants. And the big one is deferring lots of the repayments, including civils and bounce back loans, till the September 21, not March 21, when cash flow will be in a different position. I'm glad to say that we can take the social distancing one off now. I think we still need relaxation and flexibility, which is there by local government, it certainly is by Cornwall Council, to make sure that people can stay open longer in the right managed way, have more tables outside, hotels be able to take up the ground, things like that, and push forward for flexibility. Next slide, Mike. And at the moment we've got two versions of a video. You might have seen some of it leaked last week to the BBC. Our main message is Cornwall's as beautiful as ever and as wonderful as ever, but things will be different. So you want you to plan, and what you really want to do, if you want to go to that restaurant, or certainly go to Treva or go to Elegant, go to Eden, go to Laminac, and you want to make sure you book it for the COVID or whatever else, is to book ahead, and that might be wise to book quite a reason so that they don't miss out. And that's about avoiding those crowds when it gets in touch. So we've got a minute and a half video which will go on the homepage, one that will say from the 4th of July, and then that will disappear and say now you are able to go. And we're working on already some early day plans now that we're getting a bit more idea of where we are, about activities in the autumn and winter, and a campaign about now is the time to be in Cornwall, reflecting on what people have been through, but we'll talk about that in another webinar and another event. I think the big message we want to try to do, thinking and planning ahead can be fun. I've got a daughter who's superb at it. She gets as much fun planning a holiday and where to go as she does out of it. So we've got to re-enjoy that thing of get the guidebooks out, get on the website, get on the website, work out what you want to do and make sure you do it, and have a bit of fun in the planning. So it doesn't have to be a dirge method, learning. So you have some fun doing it. That's my update, and I'll be around for questions at the end. I'm delighted now to introduce Alistair Handyside, and we've known each other. Well, it's funny, he's still got a very good colour in his hair, and mine's gone completely white. And Alistair's been superb as chairman of the Southwest Tourism when I was there, and Southwest Tourism Alliance, and of the Professional Association of South UK. and has been a stalwart in pushing so much through for ECMS alongside other ones in the southwest to get some of these messaging through. But today he's going to talk about the issues around reopening for self-catering. So I'll hand over to Alistair at this time.
Okay, thank you very much, Malcolm. Welcome everybody, all you lovely self-caterers in Cornwall. It's been my choice destination for holidays since my parents used to take us to Bedruthen when I was smaller than that. And Malcolm knows I love Harlyn, and all the North Cornwall coast is where I like to go, and I can't tell you how much I miss it and can't wait to get back. Right, so today we've been told we can open. Obviously, that's a bit of a curate's egg because we don't precisely know what that really means in terms of guest sizes and some accommodation shared facilities, but details will emerge through the day, and I'm sure that Malcolm will put them out and Pask will put them out. We'll try and get any clarity on detail. We'll try and get clarity to you as quickly as we possibly can on that. But basically, 90% of you can open on the 4th of July if you can do so with a risk assessment. And we have to see that as a great step forward. So if I could have the next slide, please, Rob. So quickly, 1 minute on Pask. We started out to try and lobby for things like getting fairer business rates, fairer legislation, a level playing field, all the really turgid stuff. But we've come into a different world with COVID about trying to get the business open again, trying to find out how to do that safely. So on lockdown, we announced that the Pask members newsletter would be free to anybody who wants it, anybody. There's no qualifying criteria. If you want the newsletter, you can have it for free. You just send me an email, chair@pask.uk, or go to the website and you can find a link. Just send it to me and I'll send you the free newsletter every week. You can join as members, that helps us fund all the activities, but right now we're more concerned in getting the information out there. So next slide, let's get on with opening. So what remains unresolved? Yesterday we had a brilliant breakthrough in that the frankly unworkable guests could just basically stay at their leisure at our properties at our expense if they felt they might be suffering from a little dose of COVID, has gone away. If you look at the past Facebook page, I've been putting up notes on how to deal with that. So now we can say if they can reasonably go home, they go home. If they stay, they pay. So that's taken a monumental effort, and many of you out there watching, I know, sent in letters to your MP in support of that. So we can get change on these ludicrous measures when they come out. But we still have some others. The shared facilities, the group size, remain hovering in the background as a little unresolved. I know Malcolm is working on it hard. I'm working on it hard. We have a letter of 10 demands into a Southwest MPs meeting today, which we all put together collectively for clarity and realizing the impact of these measures and how they're unworkable. I mean, how can you say only 2 families can holiday together, but you can fill a plane up with 400 people? I mean, you know, it doesn't make any sense. We're trying to get it unraveled. So what do you need to consider before booking? Absolutely what Malcolm said, your guest messaging, which is absolutely critical. You saw those charts earlier. You've got to give the guests the reassurance that you are COVID ready and telling them any changes that you may be making at your property as a result of COVID preparations. That might be that you have an outdoor swimming pool and you'll be operating it on a shift, socially distanced basis. It might be you have a table tennis table and you won't provide the table tennis bats and balls, but you'll enable a cleaning station that they can wipe down the table tennis table. There are lots and lots of small ways that you can risk assess to try and broaden the experience that Malcolm was referring to earlier, but to make sure that we give them the best experience possible. You've got to think that through in a risk assessed way to see what you can get open at your property and what you can do safely. So all of those things, you've got to get your risk assessment done. I'll come on to that in a minute, but that's absolutely the critical thing right now, to risk assess your business. Dates, we've got the date, but since I sent the slide into Malcolm, we finally got that date. Boy, have we been waiting for that date. So I'm sure your phones will be ringing. I know what my wife has just spent the last hour doing. She spent the last hour sending the notifications out to collect the balances. The balances for July and August in our small cottages, we are now collecting. And I've got to tell you that it's making a very loud rattle in a very empty bank account as those coins hit the bottom. So good luck to all of you collecting all those balances. So guest messaging, pre-visit, on-site, let's click the slide and we'll move on to a bit of that for you. I'm going to do this in a slightly reverse order. Malcolm referred to the consumer confidence schemes. The AA one is up and running, is free. You need to get your risk assessment ready to be able to get the certification. You need to have your cleaning protocols ready. It's a short document ready. And then a couple of days later, you will get your certification. The Visit England one can't come out until the final guidelines are revealed, which Malcolm and I think we know what they are, but we don't know we know what they are, and we're not allowed to tell each other what they are. It's all madness, but they're like the Scottish ones, if you want to go and look at the Scottish ones. Yes, it's bonkers what we've been going through, but if you have got your cleaning protocols ready, you can get the VE certification the minute that comes available. These are not new sets of guidelines. They are merely a consumer confidence tick mark. That's all they are. They're free. They'll ask you for your risk assessment. They'll ask you which protocols you've used, and then you'll be able to show those banners. Why two? Well, why not if they're both free? You know, put them up, show as many marks on your website to show that you are COVID ready and that you've gone through it. So I'm going to flip back now to the cleaning protocols. What are they? Why have we got them? And when the cleaning protocols for self-catering have been available now for 9 days. Almost 40,000 copies have been downloaded. These are the self-catering cleaning standards. They are the ones that will appear in the UK guidelines. They've appeared in the Scottish guidelines, and they will appear in the Welsh guidelines. These are the guidelines. You won't get changes when the government produces the detail on what EN number you have to do or what surfaces you have to clean. There may be changes coming in the guidelines on group sizes and shared facilities, but there won't be changes to what you've actually got to clean and how you clean it. So you can do your risk assessment on cleaning now. You can conclude that. And the guidelines that you've got are the official ones, for want of a better word. I'm now just going to round off and say at the end that Malcolm's talked about consumer confidence, and what I've seen come through from all of the past correspondence is two main questions. One is the COVID confidence, which Malcolm has covered, and we've covered that a bit now, and there are lots of ways that you can address that. The other part of COVID confidence is the actual booking terms. How flexible are your booking terms? I would say that we probably had a 90% cancellation of our business for July and August, with people nervous about coming in COVID. They probably started cancelling the bookings back in March, and the last one's cancelled a week ago. I don't doubt that we'll get some more cancellations between now and the next couple of weeks as groups, larger groups, decide perhaps they don't want to come together. All of those bookings we've done flexibly. And so although we lost all of July and August, we have replaced all of July and August by offering flexible terms. So if the lockdown came back, heaven forfend, but if it came back, we would refund our customers. They are booking because they've got the confidence to know that their booking is safe with us. After some of the scandals that have gone out there during COVID about guests not being able to even secure a deferral of their booking, this is a primary question. I don't think we've had one inquiry or booking that hasn't asked, what happens if I cancel? So really, you need to think about your booking terms. I did a webinar with the CLA to hundreds of people, and they called up a survey. 82% of people are rewriting their terms and conditions in hospitality to try and reflect the fact that the market has dramatically changed. We need to reflect that and give our customers confidence. Don't assume that by giving people flexible terms, they will all cancel, but you can assume that you'll get a lot more bookings. So on that hopefully cheery note of your bank accounts filling up finally this afternoon, I hope they all have the most successful possible July and August for you all in Cornwall. I'd now like to hand back to Malcolm and take any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you, Alistair. Mike, can you read out the question, and then we'll work out between us who's answering them.
Yeah, sure thing. Give me 1 second. Put them up. We've had quite a lot of questions, so we probably won't get time for all of them today, but I'll try and get as many in as possible. We start off with this one about insurance. Is there any insurance available that you're aware of? Your membership is aware of scope or otherwise that guard against possible potential claims by the guests that they have caught COVID-19 while staying on a holiday let property?
No, I absolutely don't know. I mean, the one thing that I think we have to be realistic and think that our business insurance hasn't exactly covered it itself in glory through this terrible crisis. Malcolm alluded to the business interruption cases that we've got going to court in July. So very few of us have been paid out by our business insurance under existing circumstances. I can probably assure you that there's no way that insurance companies are looking to insure as a consequence of any further pandemic. They will be writing their clauses a lot more robustly so they don't find themselves in court again and having to pay out. The only option that I've seen currently is a way that we can insure our guests. I'll cover that in a minute. Some of you out there may have had previous careers like I did where you had company cars. I'm not digressing completely, don't worry, Malcolm, but what happened was company cars got taxed very heavily and they paid you and you leased your own car. And when you leased your own car and you had an accident in it in the first year, you found out you couldn't pay off the lease costs because the insurance company only paid you 75% of the value of the car. So you had to buy something called gap insurance. Gap insurance was terribly expensive in the late 80s, early 90s. You now don't even notice that you pay it. So these new ideas become part of the insurance market. And what's going to become part of the insurance market is our ability to insure for our guests cancelling. There is a policy, it's only available to super control customers at the moment. It's called Master Cancel. I've taken it out because now any bookings that I get that cancel in August for any reason, I get 90%. So I've done that because I'm on super control. If you're not, there isn't a policy currently, but there will be. By Christmas, there will be a myriad of policies because guest insurance is going to be a complete waste of time. All the surveys show that guests have been really disappointed by the fact that their guest insurance didn't pay out during COVID. They may have got it from us, but they didn't get it for their insurance company, so they paid for nothing. So they won't bother to insure for domestic holidays. So, guest insurance is going to be hard to get, expensive, won't cover for COVID crises. So you need to start thinking about ways of reinsuring that another way.
I think the other thing I would add is if somebody accusing you that they caught COVID at yours, that's a very difficult thing to prove. Yeah. So if you've done your risk assessment, you're doing your protocols, sticking to procedures, the lawyers are saying they can't stick it on you. If you've done none of that, then they might have a go at you. Still difficult, but if you've done your mitigation, your risk assessment, be confident they can't hit you with that because you can pick this up anywhere.
Absolutely agree.
Next question, Mike.
A question about hair dryers, vacuum cleaners in properties, being that they blow air around. Should they be removed or are they able to stay?
Again, I think you've got to look. We're not. We really are at the very low risk end of the market here. You've got to leave enough equipment in a holiday cottage for the guests to be able to have a decent time. My suggestion would be that you wipe over that hairdryer and you put it in a bag like you do the controller for the TV, and then they use it themselves. If it gets to 60, 70 degrees, I think you've really got to I mean, we could strip our cottages of everything and sanitize them like a nuclear site, but it wouldn't be a great holiday. We've got to find a way of getting the balance between making it safe in a risk assessed way, but still a holiday experience. So I think that once you take out unnecessary levels of pillows, which is what my wife puts on all the beds, which is what all us men go in and then push them on the floor because there's about 20 on every bed. If you're going to limit the amount of stuff, to a reasonable level, I think you're going to be okay. You know, you've got to be not paranoid about this. You know, it's a low risk business, and if you do the mitigation properly, I think you can leave your Coover and your hairdryers in there.
Great. Next question, Mike.
I've read conflicting advice in many cleaning guidance documents with regard to the concentration of sodium hypochlorite necessary to disinfect. Sometimes it's 0.05%, sometimes 1.0%, sometimes 0.5%. Is there any clear guidance on this, please?
Please read the PASC protocols on the PASC website. You'll find they're the same ones on the Scottish Self-Catering website, the same ones that UK Hospitality are publishing. That's your guidelines. Go with those. It's very clear that you need an EN 14476 cleaner and the levels at which you have to use that.
Okay. Next question. With several holiday lets in apartment blocks with different cleaners, how is it best to manage the stairways? Should we have separate sanitizers in each doorway?
I think I mean, you know, some of these answers you're really going to hate me for, but yes, I think so. I mean, I have Malcolm's been to our place here, and we have a swimming pool that you access through a gate, which we have an electric buzzer on, so that small children can't get to the pool, but adults can get in. So we're going to have a cleaning station either side of that gate. You know, I think you've got to think through the flow that the customer actually goes along.
The whole system might be.
Sorry, it's really hard to do this and run a business at the same time sometimes. When you've got to walk through the building like the customer would walk through the building and work out where the risk points are. If each one of those places is a risk point, then you need to attend to that risk. So I think the answer is yes, I'm afraid.
I think I would add to that, talking to some of the EHOs, environmental health, is that think of it as if there's no easy place for you to wash your hands, that's where the sanitizer should be if there's a touch point.
Yeah,
and exactly how they walk through and say, well, if they were going straight in, they could wash their hands. That's a different issue. If you can't wash your hands, that's where the sanitizer comes in. Another question?
Okay, now they've said that we're open for the 4th of July, can owners now come down before that to get their property ready?
My view is yes, but you don't come down and have a holiday in it. I know this sounds funny. I think if you can't go up and down in the day and you turn up and you do the risk assessment and you're diligent in opening up your business, then I'm sure if you are reported, then people would understand. We checked it out with the police and the test yesterday, but that means not turning up with a whole family and everybody going to the beach. I'm trying to not be a bit cruel, but you know, from practicalities and the infamous common sense, is if you've got a customer in on the 4th and you need to go down and do your work, that's fair enough, but it is just to do the work. I don't know what you think, Alistair.
I think the reason that they've not given clarity on this is because of the huge number of second home owners who occupy our space. And, you know, there are 7, 8, 10, 12,000 of them, depending upon which numbers that you look at in Cornwall. And if they all came down tomorrow for 2 weeks holiday before the 4th of July, it would look like Cornwall was open, and poor Malcolm and all his team and everybody at Cornwall County Council's phones would ring off the hook. So I think that they're trying to kind of, I don't think you'll get a guideline on that. I think it'll be one of those things that you're still not allowed to stay away from home unless it's essential business. And I think that what you could then justify would be to come down for one night and do essential business and tidy it up and get it ready. But not, as Malcolm said, bring the family, mum, dad, the dog, spend a week on the beach. I don't think that's acceptable, and I don't think that should be allowed.
Okay.
Okay, next question. We are letting agents, we have owners who have family due to stay in their properties in the summer who are not paying guests. Following the announcement today, is that acceptable?
Yes.
Yeah. Same, got to follow the same cleaning protocols and everything else, whether they're family or not.
Okay, next question. We're really worried we will not be able to open our indoor pool shared between a maximum of 8 families. We are hoping to have 3/4 slots with pool, shower, changing room closed.
This is an area where,
We
sorry,
don't know about indoor. We do. Some of the indoor stuff is not clear, but let's just assume that the guidelines, not the law, are loose enough. It may be possible for you to open an indoor pool if you shut the shower facilities, because you can't control the use of that, and you do what we're doing on our gate. You control the door in and out with the cleaning, and you do it on a rota. But we're going to have to find out when they talked about, because there was some quite specific stuff likely to come on indoor pools, and we would need to, you need to look on all the information that Malcolm sends out and all the information we send out to find out whether that's, you know, there's going to be wriggle room, and you're going to have to make the best of the wriggle room and risk assess it. But I don't know enough to tell you that you can open that pool yet.
I agree. I mean, I've seen the Swim England, there is an organisation called Swim England, guidance, and that's exactly what others said. They say it's called beach bathing, which is don't use in the changing rooms, don't use any of that, and then keeping the distances and having arrows and flows. So there's work gone on. I think it's one of the things I said at the beginning, with one of the things following back on is if you've got a managed pool where you can restrict entry and you could even sort of control the numbers, that's one of the ones I think both me and Alistair will be talking to them about having flexibility as to opposed to a free-for-all pool. So I think that's work we've got to do over the next couple of weeks to try to get that resolved. If not before the 4th, not too long afterwards. I think it's just one of the ones that wasn't able to be covered in the work they've been doing over the last week or 3 in the opening up work at a government level.
But yes, and let's cover more shared facility problems while we're on here. We might get something on a shared pool because the government kind of understands what that looks like, but we're not going to get any guidance on animal feeding or any of the other wonderful range of things that you offer at your lovely cottages in Cornwall. So you're going to need to think about how you do some of those reasons people come and stay with you. You know, people love to come and cuddle the baby goats and feed the chickens and whatever. There are ways, if you think outside the box for a second, that you can do this. You may have to have separate sets of chickens if you cuddle them. I don't know. You've got to think really, really, really cleverly about how much of your business you can keep open safely and get as much of your business open as you can safely. There's never going to be any rules on any of the really wonderful stuff you do. There might be some rules on indoor swimming pools. But a tennis court, if you've got one, tell them to bring their own tennis rackets and balls. You know, I mean, there are some quite simple ways that you can get round stuff. You know, I would say about baby stuff, which we've always been a very baby-friendly business. We are not going to provide the cots and the bouncy chairs and those kind of things. We're not going to do that whilst the risk level is where it is, because we don't want to take that level of risk. So we're going to say to them, you bring your own high chair this time, you bring your own baby bouncer, because it's one less thing for us to clean, be safe, rotate, when we've got enough additional work to be doing. So go down your whole offer, walk through your whole business and work out the bits that you can take out that the guest won't mind you're going to take out, or that they might be able to bring, and see what bits of it you can salvage to make sure they get the best possible experience. Because what we don't want is loads of reviews in years to come still hanging around on your TripAdvisor or your upfront reviews saying, well, I went in the summer and nothing was open or it didn't work. You know, you've got to think ahead on this too. So get as much as you can open within the guidelines safely.
The next question.
Okay, next question. There's a couple in here, so in the same question, so I'll just amalgamate it really. We're an agency, we do not clean all properties. We have a mixture of owner, other company, contracted companies and employed cleaners. Should the self-employed cleaners provide us with risk assessment, cleaning protocols, or adhere to ours, or both? And where would we stand with the cleanliness complaint?
Right. First thing is the risk assessment has to be done by the owner of the property. Okay. The owner of the property is responsible for the risk assessment. So that hopefully, I mean, I know what's happening. The agencies are writing them for the owners. I'm not naive, but you should send them as the agency to the owner and say to the owner, we've done the basic work for you. You need to finalise this risk assessment and sign it as your own. It's the owner's responsibility to write the risk assessment, not the agency's. The second thing is the protocols they should all follow are the ones that are on the past UK hospitality website, so that you're all following the same high standards that got the government convinced that we would be able to open safely. So you've got one set of standards. What you don't want is part of your agency stock being cleaned to poor quality and another part of your stock being cleaned to a high quality. You want to maintain the same standards throughout. So I think that's relatively straightforward to follow that route.
Okay, thanks. Next question.
Okay, next question. I think we've answered this already, but I was unable to listen to the official announcement earlier. Was there any mention as to when owners may stay in their properties rather than prepare? Presumably that's the 4th of July.
Yeah, that's the same question. If you have to come down and you're working all the time and you're getting your business ready, that's probably okay. If you're taking some leisure breaks out and taking too much time out or bringing too many other people, that's a no-no.
Okay, next question. Thank you for the good work you're doing, Pas. Has the government changed that guests must isolate at the holiday accommodation?
I couldn't quite hear that, but I think that was a question about guests being required to self-isolate at our properties. Was that the question, Rob?
It was, yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, yesterday that got changed to much more sensible guidelines. Basically, it's all on PAS Facebook and it'll be on the next PAS newsletter. The guest can we can reasonably ask the guest to go home and self-isolate at home. Only if that is impossible to do so should the guest self-isolate at our properties. Those other rules are now on the government website. Of course, it doesn't say that the guest has to pay. It doesn't say anything about the guest paying for the first visit, but you would be able to put in your reasonable terms that if the guest, it's impossible for the guest to return to their property. If they stay at yours, they pay for all affected bookings. Now, I hope you heard what I said there, all affected bookings, because you might find other people leave your site because you've turned one of your cottages into a COVID ward. So you need to say all affected bookings. I doubt that now that it's not an automatic right for them to walk out of your lovely cottage on a Friday morning and cough and get a free holiday, now that you have the right to reasonably ask them to go home, that the abuse levels that would have been possible before on this have just dropped down into the tiny single digits, whereas before it was very high risk. So it's really good news, amazing lobbying from you all, fantastic support from people like Malcolm and his team. And, you know, it shows that we can get even the most obvious to change, but hard to change things done through some really comprehensive lobbying.
Thank you. Rob, next question. Sorry,
okay, Visit Cornwall question. When will we be able to put the offers up on Visit Cornwall website?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we've got Amy back now. We're bringing other staff back in on furlough. The answer is send them in to amy@visitcornwall.com. Obviously, the offers will have to be from the 4th of July. We don't have any offers beforehand. I know it sounds obvious, but and the other one is, I would say about adding value, not necessarily discounting. The messages we're getting back is that people who are booking aren't necessarily looking for a reduction in price. It depends what your offer is, but you know, an incentive to shift. But don't at this point in time, I certainly wouldn't go for rapid discounting at all. But certainly offers that might add something, free wine, something else. Yeah, all add those in to get the bookings. And remember, they'll all be in 33 degrees in the southeast of England this week and craving to come to Cornwall. So yeah, put the offers up, but make them just a bit tantalising rather than giveaways.
Don't discount. Don't discount. There's going to be more demand for Cornwall than you've got capacity. Hold the line on pricing. You'll get the proper price. I've got my cottages. I know we're across the Tamar in Devon in God's awful country, but People are not looking for deals. The market perception out there is if they want a clean, safe holiday, they know they're going to pay a bit more for it. Have confidence. Do what Malcolm said. Add a bit of value to it and hold firm pricing. If you look on my website, late availability suggests a deal. They're all more expensive than they were on our list price 4 weeks ago. Put your prices confidently onto your offers.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, next question. Can you clarify toilet openings, especially at beaches?
Yes, I can. I had a long conversation about toilets. I know more about toilets than I really needed to know. All the toilets, it's a bit complex. All the Cornwall Council toilets will be open or should be open by the end of this week. Most of the district, the parish council toilets will be opening, if they're not already, within the next 10 days, and they should all be open by the end of July. Some of the reason for the delays are caused by them having to go in, be checked, inspected, Legionella work done, and a clean before they could start. But we're all on track for all toilets to be open, all 250, by the end of June, if not earlier.
Brilliant.
Okay, next question, Malcolm. The comments made by Councillor Dwelly have a significant effect on the views of residents and the nervousness of visitors, with many of us seeing cancellations due to this. Cornwall Council's statement did nothing to help either, as it sat on the fence. So will Visit Cornwall as an independent body come up more strongly on behalf of its members? This continues to rumble on, and there needs to be a clear distance with sort of attitude. People who stay away this year might get into the habit of doing so.
I couldn't agree more, and we'll be coming out with quite strong messaging. Particularly, I spoke to me the other day, and I did have the honest discussion about lives and livelihoods, and the fact that tens of thousands of jobs are resting on us being open, and we should do, and it is safe to do so. I've also agreed with Cornwall Council communications team that all communications to consumers and holiday makers will come from Visit Cornwall in the future, obviously, and they will just keep a neutral stance and not really comment. So can't do much about spilt milk, but hopefully we've done something about milk not being spilt in the future. And particularly, you know, although the comments were made, there was a lot of mischief made by the journalists involved, but maybe somebody with grey hair and a few more scars from journalists in the past, I'm probably more able to deal with them than somebody who maybe just got caught out by a journalist and then it went viral. And I do agree, it's done a lot of damage. I cringed the other morning. I woke up and Cornwall was mentioned of somewhere which was less welcoming alongside the Lake District, and it hurts because I can tell you we're no different to anywhere else, but now we've got that reputation. It's one, and we'll be looking to bring some journalists down once we're open so they can experience that, you know, Cornish people, you know, even the most grumpy ones are always polite and lots of other ones are friendly. We just got to try to stamp on that and make sure it doesn't become too much of a theme. At the moment, I'm maybe talking to Good Morning Britain and Piers Morgan about this, which is my dreaded fear. But I think we've got to go into the lion's den sometime. But they're struggling to find anybody that actually believes that people shouldn't come. So I said to them, well, I don't know anybody either. So that my interview might never happen because they can't track anybody down who wants to go on television to say visitors shouldn't come. But if they do, I will defend vigorously.
Well done.
Okay, next question. Households, can you explain who can stay together?
Marriage guidance there, Alistair.
Well, we're trying to find out what this, when they say two families could stay together. Now, is that a family from great granddad down to the great grandchild, so 25 people with brother-in-laws and sister-in-laws, or is that mum, dad, and 2 kids? This is why we say it's all a bit difficult until we get the devil in the detail that can turn the announcement from being a really positive announcement into a bit of a curate's egg. So Malcolm and I will be diving off this call to all our different sources to find out all this kind of detail so we can put it out there so that we can answer it in a way that you can then answer your guests. We know your guests are going to ring you and ask you as if you're the expert, because Boris said you could come on holiday. But hidden behind Boris's grandstanding will be some awkward stuff that we have to learn how to either wriggle round or get back on the phone to London to say, for God's sake, get it off. And until we get the detail, it's very difficult to answer those questions. And I know that's a nightmare, and I know it's horrible, but we will get it to you as quickly as we can. Sometimes I would also say that, do you really want a definition of what a family is in case they come back and say it's mum, dad, and two certain generations, brother-in-laws and sister-in-laws, and that's still a family coming. I mean, sometimes I think you've got to leave yourself some wriggle room and do your own risk assessment. But
and I'd also be, and sometimes up to asking them to say, can you just confirm you are a family? Because the public have responsibilities as well. Obviously,
yeah, you won't know when they turn up in the car whether they're a family or not. You've got no idea. So, you know, you have to give yourself some wriggle room.
Yeah. Next question.
One for Alistair. You mentioned copies of cleaning protocols. Can you just say again where they can be got hold of?
Yes, if you go on to the website at the bottom of the screen, www.taskuk.co.uk. When you land on the page, there is a tab called Reports. At the bottom of that tab that says Reports is Standards. And then you'll find a page with all of the cleaning protocols, risk assessments, Legionella, checklists, cleaning checklists, everything on there, free to download. Nearly 40,000 people have found that and downloaded so far, and they're pretty self-explanatory. So good luck with those, and good luck with getting open.
That'll be the penultimate question coming up now, Mike. So what's the next question?
Okay, I'll sorry, just flicking through to try and highlight the biggest ones. I thought that if a guest needs a test for COVID, that test needs to happen in Cornwall and they can go home if the test is positive. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes, if they can reasonably do so. So if they came in a car, so if you had a husband and wife come in a car and one of the group was tested, if Dominic Cummings can drive from one end of the country, I would suggest that they can reasonably be expected to drive home.
Yep. So sorry to cut the question short. We've got a lot of media, got to do the news programs and some other ones. The other questions we will go through and look at putting the answers up on a sheet after the webinar. But sorry to make it the final question. But what's the final question, Mike?
Let's pick one out here. Can anyone recommend a brand of multi-use steam cleaning machine that will clean bathroom tiles, cushions, floors, etc.?
No, I don't make a habit of particularly recommending machines or anything. You've really got to decide those for yourself as part of your risk assessment. Fogging is not mandatory. I get more questions about fogging than I ever wanted to know about fogging. It's not mandatory to fog. Obviously, a good steam cleaning, high quality steam cleaning machine will do a great job in bathrooms, but again, they're not mandatory. You can clean a bathroom adequately without one. There's on the PASC newsletter that everybody got this week and last week, and copies are available on the website. There is a cleaning training online course that the feedback's been amazing. People who've seen it have said it's given them the confidence to clean their cottages, not have a 3-day gap, and the confidence to fill in their risk assessment. And it costs 20 quid. If you did that, you wouldn't need to buy a steam cleaning machine or a fogging machine because you'd have the confidence to clean your cottage without. But a steam cleaning machine is still a very good tool, but I wouldn't recommend a particular make, I'm afraid.
And the public protection in Cornwall is very much along the same line, is anything extra, especially fogging, is fine if you're doing belt and braces, but you've actually got to do the cleaning. It doesn't replace the cleaning. If you do the cleaning, you don't need to do it. If you want to do it, you can do it. But it's not instead of, it's in addition to, exactly along with Alistair's line. So I am sorry we're having to cut this one a bit short, but I don't want to miss the opportunity of getting on the news channel, national news channel, to say Cornwall will be welcoming people back in 11 days' time. So I do apologise for that, and I'll say and the wider southwest, Alistair.
Malcolm, if you don't, you will suffer. You will. I promise.
But I think it is good news today. We will go through and we will be working with Alistair and others on these final few about swimming pools and other issues. And as I said, we will go through those questions and we will come back with a newsletter of answering in general terms the questions we haven't been able to answer today. And obviously we'll still have a webinar next week. We'll be reflecting now on what the topic should be. It might be more general questions and answers on the run up to reopening, and then later on we'll be talking about webinars about marketing for the autumn and winter. But I'd like to thank you all again. Hopefully it is all good news. I know it's not. There'll be some people still frustrated with some of the stuff that we have to work through, but it was better news than we were fearing only a couple of days ago, because it is actually that everybody can with no phase basis and no restrictions on percentages of occupancy. So it's a good day for the sunshine, and it's a good day, and hopefully we can all get cracking now on getting this industry back up and running. And thank you very much, and a huge thank you for Alistair for coming on the line, because I can imagine his long-suffering wife has been very busy working away while he's been helping out his compatriots in Cornwall. So thank you very much, Alistair.
Very astute of you. Welcome. You'll be very welcome when you come back here again. Thank you all in Cornwall. Thank you. Have the most fantastic July and August, and right off into the autumn and to the winter. I wish you all the very, very best. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Bye.